Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent host, your neighbourhood friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, whose current chapter of her story takes place in Ohio.
Settle down onto your favourite city as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favourite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore it will contain spoilers.
Dearest listeners, did you think we were done? We're just getting started. We're still talking all things Innovations Ball. We haven't hit all the major plot points yet, even keeping tangents to a minimum. I mean, we did just praise Mom and Dad of season 3 for all of their recent accolades. We needed a Hawkins Ball 2.0.
My brain just keeps on
I'm
braining.
not going into what we're talking about this time because
we're
still talking about things that I talked about in the intro for the last one.
Our tangents have gotten so big and the plot points are getting so thick that machetes can't cut through this. I think we're getting to the point where certain scenes are going to have to be broken up into 2 parts. Like we started out trying to fit like 3 or 4 plot points into each episode, and then it cut down to 1 or 2 plot points, and then we were solidly down to 1 plot point and adding half an hour, and now we're up to 2 plot points per episode.
We're getting into the scenes that are they have so much going on. And honestly, I think we did really well in curbing our tangents in, the first half of
our
Hawkins
biggest
Ball.
Tangent was about Nicola and Luke, so it was still on brand, but just tangent adjacent. And I'm just gonna say
I'm gonna tangent for like 10 seconds because I was just thinking about how I should have put it in the intro or whatever. My Colin Bridgerton is off on his travels.
Yes.
And I'm getting text messages, which I was not expecting. So that's like the 2024 version of, writing. And what did Penelope say? Colin is writing me and keeping me apprised or whatever she said of where he is or all of his travels. Like, yeah, I'm getting the same thing. He's out there. He's not in Cyprus.
He's sailing the 7 seas.
He is on a ship. Lucky
sailing
duck.
the 7 seas. Patty, that's not a duck. That's a swan.
Well, and I should say lucky ducky.
Yes.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Now we must make haste.
He is a lucky ducky.
Now we must make haste into today's episode, Patty.
We must make haste.
We must. I can't get too aggressive about it because little man is asleep early tonight. So we are actually recording. We recorded about 4 hours ago. We took a brief intermittence for.
It was not 4. It was 3.
Oh, 3.
I got off. It was like 11.
It was 3.
Yeah, it was like 11:30 because
we started 4 hours ago. 5.
Yeah,
and then we took a brief intermittence, had dinner, got my little man into his pajamas and read his books and put him to bed. And then we restarted.
Yeah. Then she's like, "Hey, how you feeling?"
Well,
I'm not sleepy.
It is currently 2 a.m. for Patty, so flowers for Patty for staying awake and doing the hard yards to get our podcast out because we're trying to catch up because I go away with my family for multiple weeks over Christmas time, so I need to have a few podcast episodes banked up for then. And on the note of special days, we forgot to do before our
It wasn't that day over here when we recorded.
No. I mean before we must make haste. So we're going to reverse our making haste comment, and we're going to haste back to mentioning that today's date is the 16th of November officially in Ohio and
recording date.
Yes, we've recorded this on the 16th of November, and that is our special day in the Ladies Bridgerton Hive mindset because it is our lovely KK Chips. It is her birthday today, so we wanted to give a shout out happy birthday to our favorite and only admin.
Happy birthday, Cake.
I thought you were going to say happy birthday, Mr. President.
Happy birthday KK Chip. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, now
we can make haste.
Now we must really make haste into today's episode. Okay, let's start out strong by discussing Francesca's love story of season 3, aka, the shared love story. There are a lot of people. This is, by the way, this is our last episode where we're really focusing on Colin being the main. Well, we're not focusing. We will always focus on Colin being the main, but this is the last episode where people were acutely aware of the fact that it was a pollen season. And then those who weren't book fans, I think, got a little bit sidetracked and thought that this was a shared season for Francesca and John because they got equal screen time as Nicola and, well, Penelope and Lou. No, Penelope and Colin. I know who's actor and who's person.
Nicola and Colin.
Same.
Penelope and Luke.
Love. Tomato. It's all a tomato. Yeah, so this is the last time that we really have it focused on Penelope and Colin. And from here on out, the side stories really start coming in thick and heavy, especially in this episode. In this particular ball scene, we have the introduction of 3 of our main love interests for the season. 4, if you want to, well, he's not introduced, but we see, Lord Samadani, we have Lord Debling, we've got Lord Kilmarten, we've got Lord Tilley, well, basically Lord Tilley, Lady Tilley. Well, that's a foreshadowing of what's to come.
Lord Tilley and Lady Benedict.
Yes, it's basically what happens. So we really come in thick and heavy with the love interest in this particular ball scene. So we're going to start out strong by starting with Francesca and Lord Samadani. So everything started off not what I would say to be fireworks or the sparks of the early starts of affection, as Violet
Danbury, yeah,
they kind of threw it out there, and I think it was more wishful thinking than anything. Not because I think
manifest.
Not that I think it was because Violet was hoping for her daughter to have an advantageous marriage, but I think she was just hoping for her to find her person, and if that was Lord Samadani, cool. I think she is love first, title second, but if that title happens to come with love, all the better, because obviously you never want your children to go without.
And I just want to point out here, because I don't think we mentioned it when he was introduced at the balloon thing, that Violet has an issue with Francesca wanting to reside in Scotland, the main seat of
what about this?
His estate, but Lord Samadani's from Vienna. He's been living in Vienna, but I asked him to come here expressly to meet you. Violet has no problem with him coming from Vienna.
Let's see.
Because the queen is the one who introduces them, but she struggles with Scotland, which she knows is a fortnight away.
Don't tell me 11 ways to get from Vienna to London. I want to know how long.
Well, and here's the thing. It just tells me that there is a rift in the time-space continuum over the English Channel, because any kind of travel that you do over to the continent, you can do in such a short period of time. But if you're going to travel anywhere in Great Britain, it takes forever. Because Colin went to 17 cities around the continent, in 4 months. Well, and we know that from the costume guy that 6 weeks of that on the way home was spent on a ship. So, yeah. I guess
it's 1,472 kilometers, or basically a 16-hour drive, which obviously they did not have cars or planes or anything to travel back then.
What, so to Vienna?
Yeah, from London.
Well, they weren't, they're going to have to put the car on the ferry if they're going to drive.
Well, they didn't have
that goes over the channel. I know, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The travel is.
It probably would have been. It probably would have been because just for them to go.
What did we say Scotland was?
2 weeks.
It was a 2-week.
And that's way closer.
But
way.
When we talked about it, what was it in a car ride? Because we figured that out too. Wasn't it like 5 or 6 hours or something?
London to where
Maybe
is
10
it?
or 12.
Where is it in England again?
He's just outside of Edinburgh. She said, "Is it just over the border?" And he said, "No,
Mm.
it's up in the Highlands.
7 hours
It's near."
25.
Yeah.
So it's more than twice the distance.
Right.
More than twice the
So
distance.
Vienna's farther, but she's like, "Hey, the queen is introducing him, so I'm cool." But when it's this other, yeah.
I
And
think
at
she was
least it's
trying
still
to
like,
be, I think she was trying to be supportive to start with, but then the reality of losing her daughter set in a little bit.
yeah.
So like I think, yeah, she got lost in the fanfare of it all, and then reality hit. So speaking of getting lost in the fanfare of it all and then reality hitting, Francesca at the start basically said, I am going to pick whoever the queen picks because I trust whom she picks for me. And that all seemed all good and well when we first meet Lord Samadani, sorry. He is handsome, he is charming, he is friendly, he is kind to her siblings, and actually engages. He remembers, like, he obviously has listened deeply to Francesca, as you know, when he meets Hyacinth, you must be Hyacinth, you know, like clearly he's listened to her stories to know how to pick out each of the siblings. So we are introduced to him, and he is a charming and kind person. So I think we get that to start with, and then as Francesca and Lord Samadani are talking, he confides in her, well, not confides, but tells her that he also comes from a family of 8 siblings, and to him, he loves his siblings and expresses how he wishes to have a family just like that. He wants to have 8 children so that his house is never quiet, so that his house is full of love and laughter and noise and the joys of growing up with a big family. And to him, that is exactly his experience. And this is when it finally dawns on Francesca of, you can't just pick whoever someone picks for you because they don't know truly what's in your heart. And although that sounds like probably something that she should like, if you talk to half of the other siblings, you know, that sounds like their idea of heaven. But to Francesca, she's like, in 2024's version, she got the ick and she was out. She was like, eight children, 8.
Yeah.
I'm out.
And I'm thinking of a couple of things that probably went through her head. Like, Samadani is very charming. Samadani is very outgoing, and he engages easily with others. And I just think she kind of looked at him and was like standing here talking to my brother. I mean, we're both from big families, and he just loves the chatter, and he loves being social. It's obvious. Like,
he reminds me of Colin from the first season. He has an ease with people.
Yeah. But I think we also kind of get a glimpse here, foreshadowing of how they were going to change her story, because obviously we didn't know about Michaela yet. But in the book, she longed to have a child. She wanted to be a mother. And here he brings up he wants to have the same number of children. And she's just like, peace out, Girl Scout. I'm out of here. She's like, I am not a baby factory.
And he's just so oblivious, and he thinks, like, because back then that's probably what a lot of women wanted to hear. You know, if you came from a big family, the idea of having lots of children with a handsome husband who you potentially actually enjoy the company of is a good time. But 8 children when you were an introvert is a lot.
Well, and not only that, the Bridgertons are an anomaly that 8 children survived. So anyone who knows how to do math, and as a musician, she understands math. She knows the statistics, and she's probably going to have to be pregnant more than 8 times.
Yeah.
And have more than 8 children to get 8 children.
It's Violet is an absolute anomaly. Is the word I struggle with. Anomaly.
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 Anemone.
Yeah, anemone.
I love Finding Nemo. Yeah, she is very much that, because to have 8 children, for all 8 children to survive birth, 1, rarity. For her to survive the birth of all 8 children, 2, rarity. To not lose a single child in bringing them up, rarity. In the 1800s.
And considering Edmund was allergic to bees that badly, that he died that quickly, the statistics are at least one of those children is similarly allergic.
Hugo also died. His brother Hugo also died of a bee sting around the age 30, 34. I think it was something like that. And that is who Winnie was married to, the one who Francesca goes and learns the piano lessons from. She was married to Hugo, who also passed away. And that was the middle or younger son. I can't remember. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the suitors that the Queen has been picking for the Bridgerton diamonds, because not once but twice now, the Queen has actually picked out men whom, let's just pretend that they weren't looking for a love match, but instead were looking for someone that they could fall in love with. The Queen has picked out not just like, it's very easy to look at them and say, hey, she's just picking out the most advantageous marriages. But she hasn't just picked out the Lord Deblings who are insanely wealthy, but she's actually picked out really, really decent, kind men.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, and also picked out people who really value family, because obviously to anyone in the ton, they can see that the Bridgertons value family above all. So Prince Friedrich and Lord Samadani both are huge family men, both very kind, both very attentive, get along easily with their families. With the Bridgerton family, they get the Hyacinth seal of approval, which is a very coveted seal.
Right. Yeah, and I think, as we've said before, all of the women who meddle in the love lives of the ton all pursue their meddleship, however you want to say. They meddle trying to give the person that they're helping a love like they had, or a life like they had, or in Danbury's case, maybe not. I think with Francesca, she understands Francesca is not as interested in love or marriage or whatever that Violet wants her to be. And she's thinking maybe she's more like her, and the people that she's presented or, tried to help her attract would be, that's why she brought up Debling to the Queen is, hey, this dude's about to go on a dangerous mission. He's going to die off. And then she will be able to just be alone and everything she wants. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, nobody will be telling her what to do. And that's Danbury's thing. And the Queen very much chose, he's got to be handsome, got to be of high rank. That's her. But she also chose good, kind men because George was a good, kind man. And she knows that in her case, she believes wholeheartedly that love grows. Love grows over time. And love is a choice because when, times get hard, George is sick, she chooses him every day. So she's choosing suitors that are easy to choose every day.
Yeah.
That Francesca can wake up. I think if Sir John didn't come around and Francesca had married him, if she would have been like, okay, I can talk to him about all these kids. She could wake up and she could have a very content life. It would be very Marina Phillip-esque, not so much a rescue, but it would be, don't think about how they got together. Just think about their life together. It would be comfortable. It would be,
yeah, but Marina's not content though. That wasn't a very good example.
But we talked about that. Marina's not content because she feels she's racked with guilt that she lost faith in George and she can't forgive herself. So if she truly, like she was going to make a go of it with Colin, if she gave it an honest go with Philip, I think she would have been bored, but it would have been content. She's living a content life. She has run of the house while he's out with his flowers most of the day. She's raising her children. They are secure. They are safe. And he is a good, kind man. And love did not grow, but it's still like Francesca would at least have that.
You know what? On the note of Marina, my brain tangented, sorry. I don't think she would have even been content with George because at some point, happiness has to come from within. And if you are that unhappy that you are willing to kill yourself, I don't think it was ever really, truly anything to do with George. Yes, she loved him. And yes, it hurt to lose him. And I think that could have been the camel that broke the straws. Sorry, the straw that broke the camel's back. A camel's definitely going to break a straw's back. But
I think she was infatuated with him, and
I don't know if they're going to play
young.
it. I don't know if they're going to play it that way in the TV series. I don't think they will. And I don't see them trying to blame it off on Marina. Like in the books, Marina was depressed and she was a little girl. She was always very melancholy, but always very withdrawn and whatnot. So I don't think they can play it off in the same way. So I do think
I think they're going to. She's going
to dive chill.
to get more and more bitter over time over her guilt for losing faith in George, because the show has this relationship with the brother.
I think because of the actress Ruby, I think that they're going to have her die of exposure, as in catching a chill, going swimming, Philip would be like, I told her not to swim that late in the season, but she went and it was just too cold. She caught a chill and she died. I think it's going to play out like that. I don't think it's going to be an intentional thing. Or she'll drown. Either way.
But I think that, I mean, considering not everybody in the book learns of her fate in that way, we know it as readers, but it's not, because Penelope was a little busy and not writing about stuff that happened in the country. So nobody found out how Marina died. And I think they could play that off again, where it's like, maybe Philip even goes, I don't know, because she was so unhappy. Like he just doesn't know, because it happens in the lake. You get what I'm saying? There would be a question. It was late in the season. It was, and maybe he didn't know what her intent was going in the lake that time of year. But he rescues her, brings her back, or gets her out of the water, brings her back. But she, was exposed to the colder water so long that, that's what actually got her. But
I think because of the tone of what went down with Ruby
Sparks, I think.
Sparks, but because of how that went down, I think it'd be a little bit tone deaf if they still had her kill herself. So I think given the actress's mental health.
Yeah, but they already did the whole, I think they'll make it accidental, because if you remember in season 1, she almost killed herself with that tea. So I think it'll be something similar where maybe she wanted to create a situation to get his attention or something like that, and it ended up.
Well, see, the funny thing is when you are acting, when you are pretending, when you are creating scenarios in your head, your body does not know that it is not real, and your body still creates the same visceral kind of reaction to it. It still drives the cortisol levels. It creates all the hormones and reactions and everything in our bodies. So I do, because she said that she found it quite challenging filming season 1. And I do wonder whether, because as viewers, we get it in a very dramatized, very like Bridgerton happy fluffy kind of way, but in actually filming it, it probably felt a lot heavier, especially if she had ever suffered a miscarriage or, gone through personal struggles in that kind of regard. I can see how it would have had that effect on her, but it is very easy to just dismiss it. But thinking about how when we create fake scenarios in our head, if our body has that reaction, I'm sure being an actor, it's very, very similar. And we see method actors, have taken it too far in the past, where they've really gotten themselves in trouble because of it.
Ledger.
I was not naming names, okay?
I am. There's a curse of the Joker.
It was exactly who I was thinking of. Speaking of Ruby's playing characters in certain regards, that was also one of the notes that I had in relation to Francesca kind of confessing in a way. And I think she was doing a very, very vulnerable confession. Do you not find it lonely to be amongst all your siblings? I think that was a very, very raw moment for her, and to realize that, no, you are the odd one out. I don't feel the same way. Like, I'm content, I'm happy, I'm fulfilled when I'm around my siblings. She realizes, it's just a me thing. But the original, that's the Ruby Stokes one. I think the other Ruby is a different Ruby. Because remember, we've got 2 Rubies. One is the original Francesca, and one is
and I think
Ruby Stokes and Ruby Barker.
Yeah. I think
Ruby Stokes is the original Francesca.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd.
That's why I had that.
Yeah.
So Barker is
the original Ruby Stokes played Francesca a lot less introvertly than Hannah Dodd. And do not get me wrong, I absolutely adore Hannah Dodd. I think that her portrayal is fantastic. I think that she has portrayed it exactly the way that the Bridgerton producers have asked her to portray it. But I think in the initial seasons, Chris Van Dusen was heading down the John Michael path. And then I believe that because they've now changed her storyline so dramatically to fit in with the Michaela, to fit in with Jess Brownell's vision, I think they've also changed Francesca's personality to be a lot more on the extreme end of how she was in the books, to fit this vision.
Yeah, I don't think she is so much introverted anymore as secretive. I think that she kind of understands and knows that she's not attracted to men, and she's, experienced love or a crush or attraction that was considered, risque and taboo for the day. And she's isolated herself kind of to be able to keep that secret. Similar to Penelope. I mean, Penelope has isolated herself in her own home and in the ton. Like, she chooses to be a wallflower. She does not engage in a lot of conversation because she is worried that her secret will get out. So its side stories play into the main story. So that's, Francesca was a lot more extroverted at home, very much like more involved with her siblings. Like, she's teasing Colin at the beginning of season 2 when he comes home. She's like, "Oh, you look like you've got a bit of color," like, she's right in with the family teasing. And then all of a sudden, like, she literally doesn't hang out with anyone. She's uncomfortable when anybody asks her a direct question. It's like something changed. She went away this time to Aunt Winnie, and we have our speculations and theories, and maybe she had an experience. It's made her think about herself, but she's concerned with what her family would think. So now she is isolating herself, and she's withdrawn herself a little more. Like, she hasn't built the relationship that Violet wanted because she was going to Aunt Winnie's all the time for piano lessons and stuff. But now, she's come back and she's even more withdrawn. And because I took it as, I mean, all these people are out there like, "Oh, they did it so well. She's such an introvert." And I didn't see it as introverted. I know introverted people. And to me, it was more similar to Penelope. Like, she's withdrawn. She's trying her best not to only let people the surface, because she's concerned with
she is
what will
very
they
much
see
masking.
if I'm authentic, what will they think of me? Very similar to Colin too. Like, he puts on his persona because he doesn't think anybody will like the real him, or they don't like the real him. And I think that she's very similar, but people took it as introversion because Francesca is introverted in the books. But I think with how they're changing the story, it plays into, I have learned this thing about myself, and I don't know how my family's going to take it. And that, if you think about the way Jess Brownell talked about Francesca, that's exactly what she resonated with, that this girl felt odd. She was the odd person out. And that is how a lot of LGBTQ people feel as they're growing up in their family.
Well, the funny thing is, like, she's way more autistic coded than she is gay coded to me. Like, gay doesn't look at any one set way. Let's just put it out there. You can't really stereotype people into it because it literally is anyone.
Right.
And the funny thing is if they were going to fit in with anyone's character, it kind of went a lot easier with Eloise's character. And I think a lot of people would have been less opposed to the storyline if it had been Eloise, because I think people who read the books were quite disappointed in Eloise settling down and just being a mother. Not that she was just a mother, but that she wanted more than that life, and that was all she was given. And I think that was very much a product of its time. Whereas if they would have changed her story to being that and potentially having a Cressida, Eloise love interest, all that kind of thing, I think people would have been actually a lot more accepting. But I think that the Michael and Francesca storyline is so deeply passionate, and I mean, let's be real, it is definitely the most feral of all of them, of all the books. So I think people were pretty upset by that. I don't know. I'm going to reserve my judgment. I have slowly fallen in love with Sir John, so it's going to be really, really, really tough to see him pass. Not to see him move on. That's not the part. But like, when you've fallen in love with someone and their sweetness and their kindness, it's going to be really hard to see him die, because we haven't thus far lost any characters that we really loved. Like, yes, we've in a way lost the king, but George isn't really gone yet. He's just lost in himself, and that broke us enough to actually see Sir John be dead and watch Francesca. I know, sorry, we lost Edmund, but that was a flashback, and even that destroyed me. Like, I sobbed. And then when Anthony sobs and when Violet sobs over it, I sob over it, you know. So it is going to be really tough to see Sir John pass. Speaking of Edmund passing, actually, that brings me along to my next note, is Francesca kind of makes this confession to Lord Samadani, realizes that he does not feel the same way, and she kind of excuses herself. Violet then looks around and is like, oh, where's my daughter taken off to? I am talking to someone for a moment and she's disappeared, which then leaves her out in the open and available for someone else to come upon her. But I did want to talk about her outfit quickly before we start talking about her next introduction. I know that these outfits do not go along with 1815, but I must say that I adore Violet's outfits this season. In previous seasons, they corseted her so tightly that it felt inappropriate for a mother of late 50s to have their breasts pushed up so far. It just looked uncomfortable. At a certain point, at a certain age, I want to be comfortable.
Well, she's early 50s, because if Edmund was 19, she was 17 or 18 when she had Anthony.
Okay.
And he's 30 in his season, 29 or 30, I believe. So
for some reason, I thought he was 34. Is he 34 in the book?
He's 34 in real life, or was 34 in real life.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, in the book, he's 29.
Yeah, okay.
In his season, in his book, he's 29 years old, almost 30.
Okay.
And that's what makes it like, why am I going to get involved with someone when I'm really sure I'm going to die before I'm 40 years old?
That's right, because he's like basically the same age as Kate, and it's like unheard of to marry someone the same age as you, because that's creepy. Why would you marry someone of the same, why not Cradle Rob instead?
Well, and that's most of it. Like, most men, even no matter how old they got, they still went for the Debs that, you only on the mark for a year or two.
I wonder whether they're going for young women also because men have lower life expectancies than women, and especially back then, men were partaking in far more dangerous activities except for childbirth.
Yeah, but there's always been a thing about, in America, I don't know if it's all world, it probably is about fairly legal.
I have only just come to the realization, and I think I might have shared it in Tangent Queens, that 20 states in America have no minimum age of marriage except the fact that you need parental consent. No minimum, as in
fact, not naming names, but the state I formerly lived in for 5 years, they actually were going back and forth.
I love that you guys have freedom of speech, but you can't have freedom of speech without getting done for it.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get, it's about the values of the government of that state I did not align with, but I know some really amazing people who live there. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to disparage the state, because they absolutely love their state. And I was a foreigner and I was treated as such.
Wait, is it
when I moved there?
State? Smaug state? No. Because I was like, I have some friends from there too.
No, this state, when I moved there and I started working at the bank, I legit had people like, until you've been here to where you have streets named after your family, and you can name 7 generations, like a father's father that lived here, you are not from here. You are an outsider. I was told that. I'm an outsider. They were not going to do business with me because I'm an outsider.
I mean, people tease me about being Australian, but that's kind of as far as it goes. It's usually just like our sports team is better, or no, your sports team is better. You think that your sports team is better, and that's basically the extent of it. But I mean,
literally, in the last less than 10 years, this state's government was going back and forth about putting a minimum age on when you can get married and making there be a minimum age.
It is crazy to me that there is not a minimum age.
And they fought. Crazy. And they fought and won the opposition, because they said it infringes on the rights of the parent of the child, because it should be their
I have some absolutely explicit Australian words that I'd like to say to that government.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
I'm gonna move on because it will actually fill me with like blood boiling
Feminine rage.
rage.
Yeah.
There is nothing that gets me more enraged than the mistreatment of children. Nothing. Which is why I get so angry about how Penelope is treated in the season, because she is essentially still a child. She's what, 18, 19 years of age? That is a child.
No one in the ton, no one is treated like Penelope.
No one, no.
No one, not
And it's
even
by
people that
everyone.
Whistledown has shattered their lives, called them out in her scandal sheet. No one is treated like Penelope is treated.
No, not someone of the ton anyway. Like Sophie is massively mistreated herself, but she is not of the ton in a way, so it's slightly different.
But she's only mistreated in her own home
Yeah.
by what essentially would have been her stepmother, even if she was a biological child.
Yeah.
So
we need to get back to the book, because I don't even know how I got to the start track. It was me. It was 100% me. It was all me. Okay. I take full blame. I don't know how we got from Violet's cap sleeves to child slavery, and only you and I can tangent these tangents. Okay, so okay. Violet,
her dresses are awesome.
Her dresses
oh yeah
are
oh we
sparkly.
were talking about an older age. We're talking about she's really only early 50s.
And
then we brought up how old Anthony was, and then 30-year-olds go for younger men. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely
tell us
dots.
you're neurodivergent without telling us you're neurodivergent.
There's dots, but they definitely take some connecting. It's like trying to connect stars to find what, it was probably a new neurodivergent person who created constellations. He's like, look at that. That makes a picture.
Right. Those stars right there, if you drew a line, it would look like
He's definitely a neurodivergent person. So capped sleeves. These ones are sparkly, and there is nothing that I enjoy more than a cute sleeve, but a sparkly cute sleeve. Violet has like a little cold shoulder moment going on this one. She has this beautiful, like, it's very ethereal kind of dress that she's wearing. It's very like silvery. It makes her look really young, and like she could almost pass as a debutante, like not a debutante, but like, a young she looks really, really, really beautiful in this outfit. Her hair very much was reminiscent of Rose in Titanic. It was of that very similar, like, Albany.
That's swept.
That swept back, and she has this little. It's not a clip. I don't know what you would call it. It's not a crown, but it goes over your bun. It's a
the hair comb thing.
It's not a hair comb because it goes the entire way around a bun. Well, not a bun because it's not a bun. It's an updo of some variety. Yeah. But it actually has the same.
Chignon or
it has the same filigree as Lord Hawkins' staircase. It's got the same viney filigree kind of pattern to it as the staircase, and I thought that was quite a cute
and
little
this is the dress with the silver, like, kind of has it to me, it's like tinsel.
It
kind of looks like tinsel over the dress, like it's like if somebody took tinsel and kind of, this one's the beadwork one, because there is one she has that's a silver gray, and it's got really bright silver lines, like if somebody shined a light on her.
This one is like, it's got kind of like that wave, like zoop 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 of silver. I love the people that can't see the video and they just hear me saying zoop zoop zoop
zoop zoop zoop zoop,
because zoop is a description for a shape.
Yes, we're describing the pattern.
So the dress is really beautiful, and I just think that she looks,
I mean, props, costume department, we have hailed your praises.
I can imagine that the detail work of beading a dress like that would have taken them like absolute countless hours. They did a really, really beautiful job on this dress. I mean, most of the dresses, to be honest.
They've probably been working on it since season 1, before Regé Jean Page decided not to come back, and they were like, this will be Daphne's dress, and then of course
it's very
she doesn't come back.
It was very reminiscent of something that I would expect a debutante to be wearing to greet the queen, because it's that, very light silvery, because everything that was, I mean, they wore white to greet the queen, I believe, because purity, or was it white or silver? I can't remember.
They for presentation day they wore white.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, but it very much
And
reminded me of
it
something.
was a symbol of purity. Yeah.
It was something that I would.
Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about.
Oh, is
It
it?
is beads, but the way the light shines on it, it gives me the like, it gives me the feel of
Okay.
tinsel, it's got that shimmery, like if you're looking at a Christmas tree and somebody put tinsel all over it, it just gives me that vibe. But yes, this is a very intricate dress. And I almost feel like, they probably started it for Daphne because it would have taken a long time with
Well,
all the
that's what I
beadwork
was
and
thinking.
stuff.
It looks like it was made for Daphne. It's very reminiscent of
Yeah,
season one Daphne's kind of debutante
Daphne.
looks.
And Daphne didn't come back, or Phoebe Deniver didn't come back for season 3, and Ruth is probably in there doing her fitting, going, dress that I could fit
Yeah.
into that dress.
Well, and I think
Watch me fit into that dress.
I kind of wondered whether going to such a dress was kind of like she's going back into her debutante era of like she's
Yeah.
open for another season. She's ready for a new season of love. We'll get
Oh
her
yeah,
onto we'll get on
that's
to
how
lovers. We'll get her onto the new season of Love is Blind.
I very much got that vibe that her clothing is not that it was ever truly matronly
No, but it's
before,
very youthful.
but she is, yes, it's very youthful. And like in today's day and age, most people would be like, oh, why is she dressed like that?
I think she
What
looks
is she?
absolutely stunning in it. It's really,
But that dress is
yeah.
gorgeous.
It radiates off her and it makes her look very glowy. My one qualm with it is I don't think that the necklace suits it. I think
I
that
think the necklace is literally just plastic beads. They want it
that's
to look
exactly
like
what it looks like. But
glass or something, but
you know what she needed? The Swarovski?
Swarovski,
Swarovski. There's just some
Swarovski
words
jewels.
that are just
Yeah.
beyond me, okay? Well, the necklace that Penelope was wearing that was just like a few crystals. I'm
Hmm.
gonna just go with crystals. I think that was kind of the vibe that was needed for this dress. Something just like delicate, fine to complement the dress without it looking cheap. That necklace looked cheap to me.
Yeah. Well, and it is. I mean, to me, it doesn't even look like it's glass. It looks
Yeah,
like it's plastic,
yeah. It
plastic beads.
it would have
I
been
mean,
plastic
clear
beads.
plastic, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there was a lot of, I mean, because like as we come up, segue in, Lady Danbury is,
This is the first.
gonna walk up to them, but her necklace, her hairpiece, it's all intricately done and all that. And then,
It looks
there
very
is a lot of very simple,
we will talk
a lot of
about
very simple.
we'll talk about the necklace when I talk about the plot hole because I feel like they kind of are a little bit tied in. So
Hmm.
let's meet Lord Anderson officially. So the handsome lord from earlier approaches Violet. Immediately, we see that they are setting them up as more than just a fling, because instead of this charged conversation of flirty double meaning that Benedict is having with Lady Tilley to tell us it's just a fling, this isn't some kind of
Mm.
you can tell that there is interest there. You can tell that
There's real connection.
there is connection, but it's not in a superficial kind of, I want to have sex with you, I want my garden tended kind of a way. It's not let me come over and prune your roses. It is a keeping with the metaphor here, let me prune the roses, let me enrich your soils, let me water your garden. I want the whole package. I don't want to just come along and demolition crew and cut everything out. I want the
Right.
whole package. It is
I'm
deeper
gonna
than
fix
that.
the fence too.
Yeah. Let me make some changes. Let me plant some companion
Yeah,
flowers
if
to
we
go with
put
your
these two
roses.
plants together, they'll help each other grow.
Yeah. And I feel like that is kind of what we're getting. Like we had our Cheap Thrill song from earlier, which kind of threw me off, but then we start meeting him and they start bonding over their families. And obviously Violet is more than just motherhood, but motherhood is also whom she is at the core of her person, because the core of her person is kind and loving and she likes to share that love. She likes to share the morals that she was raised with from her father of being loving and kind and understanding, and being a little bit like Benedict, where love is love and you support people that you love no matter what. And so when we get Marcus Anderson coming along and he is kind of very similar ideals, at least on the surface that we've seen so far, we realize, hey, this isn't just a fling. They wouldn't be setting up this emotional connection for it to just be a fling.
Well, and I don't think that Violet, I don't think she's capable of just having had the love that she's already had. She probably doesn't believe that's possible again because it is so rare. Mm-hmm. But I don't see her being like a Lady Tilley Arnold. No. I don't see her being like Sienna or anyone else who just.
We don't even know if Lady Tilley. No, we do. She did love her first husband, and then we think. Well, we don't actually know that. We just know that Benedict makes her feel like love is possible again, but not necessarily what kind of love she had.
She speaks of him in a reverent way.
Mm.
That she said he died and he said, I'm sorry. She said, I've had seasons to mourn. So she's mourned for a long time, much like Violet. But we see this is our juxtaposition of character here. We see a widow who is choosing, because she did have such a deep love for her first husband, she's choosing flings. She's choosing, like she told Benedict later, like, I didn't think finding this connection was possible again. And Violet is so shocked at what she had considered in Queen Charlotte. Like, I almost let a footman lay on top of me. Like, she's so shocked at her own behavior that I think that, she could not go down that path. And she's very tentative with Lord Anderson. But if you watch this connection and this growth, and he seems pretty forward too, but they're just older. They're more, this would have been like if Colin and Penelope had met each other when they were older. Mm-hmm. Like all of that, young pretense and insecurity is gone. These two characters are both comfortable in who they are. They have lived life already. They are mature and they're not playing games because why?
I think Violet still has those kind of giddy youngish feelings, and we kind of almost immediately see her exhibiting what she is explaining to Francesca on her wedding day, the signs of how she knows that she is in love, or that love is the tendrils of love are
you
forming.
In love right now? Are you can't get your words out?
No, I'm just tired.
Just you need to give it a positive spin. I'm not tired. I'm just in love. I'm not ADHD. I didn't lose the word in my filing cabinet brain. I am just in love.
I didn't lose the word. I just filed it in another spot that I haven't found yet, just like my filing charges.
Right. I accidentally saved it to the wrong folder. I'll find it.
Yeah. I just mislabeled it. So this is when Granny D, our Lady Danbury, appears to inform Violet of the identity of the ever so handsome stranger to be Lord Marcus Anderson, my brother, ladies and gentlemen. And
this is perfect. We talk about how Pauline's romance is the romantic comedy, but this introduction, after they've been kind of connecting and flirting a little bit, this is rom-com gold. Mm-hmm. It's that mistaken identity. You think this person is available, and then you find out that they're probably not.
You sleep with my dad, I'll sleep with your brother.
Well, and she's not even like that. She's like, she's just flirting with this guy, and he's kind of cute. And then she's like, your brother. She's like, did you just lay this philosophical trap for me?
Yeah, so we kind of immediately get this feel. I will get into my my plot hole. No, we'll go into the plot hole first. Let's dive right in. I'd like to dive in, please.
Dive in.
I'd like to
dive in. Are you in diving?
I'm diving deep today. The deep is my brain is mush at this point. This is what happens when we do multiple episodes in a day. I swear my brain.
It's 2:59 a.m. in Ohio right now.
I've had too many days in a row of 4:35 a.m. bedtimes, and it's my mum is showing. My tired mum brain is definitely showing.
I had a very stressful week. and a lot going on, that when you even mention, like, do you think you'll be up? Do you think we can do another one? And I'm like, yes, this is filling me up, filling my cup, replenishing me.
I wish I could fill my cup right now with coffee or Milo, but I ate too much pasta for dinner to fit anything in without it coming back up.
And I'm absolutely snacking on the worst podcasting food ever. So if you're hearing moist chewing sounds, it's because I'm eating saltwater taffy.
You just triggered half the country. Moist.
Well, you can't, it's not a crunchy food, but it's triggering me because I hear it. I
listened to this, I think it was this week's episode, and I'm almost certain that I was eating chocolate in this episode, because you can't hear any crunching, but you can occasionally hear me. I don't think anyone who doesn't know me well enough would pick it up, but I know that I'm probably trying to swallow the chocolates in my mouth in order to talk in time.
Well, I catch us both, we are very ADHD and that we can't stop ourselves until we're done chewing, and you can tell that we have something.
Yes.
But we tell you in the intro that we are just two friends talking about Bridgerton, okay? We have snacks.
We have snacks. I wish I had snacks. Honestly, my heart says yes. My stomach says do it and you'll vomit.
Did you get all your snacks from your aunt?
I did. I actually told my husband that marriage only, you can only throw the rules of marriage around so far with me. That does not extend to trying to take my Australian snacks for all the Australians out there. He tried to take me.
You sound like my text messaging. For some reason, it's been typing the word twice lately. The predictive text. Yeah. Instead of predicting the next word, it's just typing the same word again.
I hate that. So for all of my fellow Aussies out there, he tried to take my caramello koalas, and we all know that is a cardinal sin. I bought him 2 blocks of chocolate this week. That little skinny bastard can eat whatever he wants. He ate 2 blocks of chocolates and then try to come for my caramello koalas. And he goes, but we're married. And I'm like, but I'll divorce you. Get away.
Right. And he goes, where Ezra gets his love for chocolate for real. He goes, he
goes, you didn't buy those blocks of chocolate for me. You bought them for you and then realized they had peanuts in them and then offloaded them to me. And I'm like, yeah, therefore I bought them for you. And he goes, I have a disease. And
I can tell you, if I bought something accidentally that had coconut in it, I know who I'd get to. Yeah. I would not be eating that.
I know. When the store gave you snacks that you didn't want, and then you were like, Cam, this is yours.
Yeah. I think I got this for you, Cam. Really.
Yeah. Love. Okay. Back to my plot point, my plot hole. Deep into the hole. Okay. So my plot hole is in the Queen Charlotte book and TV series. Look, see, I told you we're a book podcast too. We do cover book content. We learned that Agatha Danbury is from Sierra Leone. And I believe that in her country, they don't have royalty in the same way that they do in England. It's not the same kind of hierarchy system, but from memory, I believe that she was considered to be of princess royalty kind of status back in Sierra Leone. Okay, so she's from
the
there.
Royalty in England believe they're...
Yes, they are the top tier of the top tier.
Yeah. God said, you are better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Your blood is so blue.
Stop it. Okay, so we have Agatha, who is from Sierra Leone. So therefore, her brother is also from Sierra Leone. When her father passed away, his title would have gone on to his son, her brother, in Sierra Leone, not in England. Title does not transfer from other countries to England. Yes, Lord Samadani, I don't really know how that one kind of works, because generally speaking, he's probably a lord in England, but just happens to live in Vienna. As you were saying, they were stationed in different areas, but maybe not areas that weren't English colonized, like Sierra Leone. So the fact that Lord Anderson is a lord in England, because we know he lives in England, he lives in the countryside, this does not work, because keep in mind that Agatha married she didn't marry into, they received the title once she was already married to him, but it was her husband that received the title, not her. And then that title passed on to her son, and then she remained a dowager lady. But that has nothing to do with her brother. That title does not extend to her brother in any sort of way. And he was not part of the great experiment in Queen Charlotte, which was giving Black people on the outskirts of the ton who were wealthy people in their own rights, but just didn't have any official title. This gave them title and rank and respect amongst the ton, essentially. He was not part of that experiment in the Queen Charlotte series. And I very, very, very much fail to believe that when Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury were talking, when they were choosing out suitors for Francesca, and she says, you seem distracted. And she basically says, oh, I have an unwanted visitor coming. If the Queen at any point had bestowed upon a title upon Lord Anderson, the Queen and Lady Danbury would have talked about the fact that he was her brother and that they had some sort of issue. I fail to believe that he was given title in England at any point when he already had title in his own country. He had property and whatnot in his own country. I very, very, very much doubt that he would have left that title, left that land, and moved over to England.
I'm looking in Think Talk because it looks like, because I looked up like were foreign titles recognized in England, and they can be,
but not on the same level. Like if you were a prince in another country, that did not equate to you being a prince, the equivalent of a prince in England. Because remember when Agatha was going off and, I am this and I am that, she was basically royalty in her country. And she's like, that demands some level of respect. I am this, I come from this. I've got to listen to all the books again because I mentioned them in all different places, but it's been so long. It's been how many years since that was released? 2 years since I read it?
Maybe.
I was deep in the sleep deprivation at that point with a little one.
But yeah, England did recognize foreign title up until 1930. Some they could choose who they recognize and who they don't. And usually
I think that the title has to be bestowed within a country that is a English territory.
Well, England
under England's sovereignty.
Yes, and that's what I was looking at here. In 1787, a group of formerly enslaved peoples arrived in Sierra Leone from England to form a settlement. The settlement failed, but it started a
revolution.
Sort of. It is actually a commercial company that was sponsored by English opponents of the slave trade, and they became a stopping point where they could keep people from becoming enslaved because they were a stopping point for ships and stuff like that.
Okay.
But in 1807, after the British Parliament made slave trade illegal, the government took over the settlement and made it a crown colony. So in January 1st of 1808, there was a crown colony in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And so the queen, king, whatever, may have chosen to recognize the titles of those from Sierra Leone because they now had a colony there. So if they were trying to colonize, I could see him coming to reside in England, but because Sierra Leone is not as populated, not as, he probably chose the country for that reason. And he chose to come to England at some point to revive his connection with his sister. But London. They probably would have offered him and I'm using the word exile simply because he left his country and came there. But they probably offered him the chance to come to England. And maybe the queen, might not directly know this. It would have been like an experiment like they did with, what's her name, did not know every single family.
Well, and Lady Danbury was also very guarded about her information and her history. And I think I said in a previous episode that the Queen basically used her as a confidant, but Lady Danbury never returned that loyalty or friendship. And when I say loyalty or friendship, I mean being open with your friends and sharing your own secrets is a different kind of bond than just hearing their secrets.
She recognized the difference of their station.
Yeah.
Even though they were friends. She was a friend to the Queen, and that aided the crown because it kept Queen Charlotte's mental health up. But she understood she could not burden her. She had the burdens of the entire country. She was not going to lay her burdens at her feet too.
I'm really glad that she has Violet now, not because it's a better friendship or anything, but I feel like she can actually unburden herself upon Violet to some extent in return instead of it just being one-sided. And she deserves that because basically all she's ever had as far as that has been her lady's maid. Well, her lady's maid, in which she could never even tell her about Lord Ledger either, though.
Well, no, she had the same relationship with her lady's maid because her relationship with the queen, obviously, between her and Coral, she was the queen and Coral was her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that wasn't a true connection either. Whereas like Coral was asking questions and was being curious and was trying to be there for her. She knew she could never be there for Coral in that way. And Coral would never cross that line either. So Lady Danbury's only ever had truly one-sided relationships. The only relationship that she's ever had that was mutual connection was Lord Ledger.
Yeah.
And it was so brief. Yeah. And so I think that is why we see as they truly come together and truly connect as friends, which I think officially happens in this season.
Yeah.
Because they have the whole thing about Violet's father looming over them in Queen Charlotte. And they have the secrets that Lady Danbury kept to promote her two wards in season 2. Yeah. So season 3 is the first time they are both on the same playing field footing, and they are able to connect as friends.
Well, and I actually really, really like seeing how protective Lady Danbury is of Violet in this part. Like, she's very much Mummy D in this scene because she can instantly notice the sparks of affection growing between these two. Like, it is palpable. It is in the air.
Yeah, and she says, like, she almost says my brother similarly to how Eloise does when Eloise is calling Penelope out.
Well, and she says, "Will not be staying long," as in, pack your bags and leave because I want you gone already. I want you gone yesterday, but you're still here, so like ASAP. Please. So she makes it very, very known without using a singular mean word. Right. You are not welcome here. You can leave. This is my friend. You will not. And I love how as the season progresses and you start to see that connection form, how protective Violet is. That is my friend. You cannot take her from me. This is very much the Eloise, Penelope, Colin, all over again. This is mine. This is something that is actually mine in life, not yours. You can't take it from me,
Yeah, and I think that they play this out in the way that they do.
Lady Danbury had such little in her life that was hers, as you said.
Yeah, they had to air the dirty laundry and come to a forgiveness about Lord Ledger. So Lord Anderson is her brother, but it also is very much the Penelope, Eloise, Colin dynamic. Like, this is how mature people handle it, except you have a rift between sister and brother.
Yeah.
That we don't really have between Colin and Eloise, except they are definitely throwing more barbs to each other, and they're not exactly on the same page. Or I mean, they've always kind of been antagonistic of each other and competing with each other, but there is a definite
love. There's definitely love.
I wouldn't say it's ire like Danbury has for Lord Anderson, but there's that prickliness. There's kind of a prickliness going on. And ultimately, I think that, there's a little bit of Colin is more affection.
There's more affection than R.
Yeah, she doesn't know that Colin is competing for Penelope, but Colin very much knows he's competing for Penelope. So there's that.
He's been competing his whole life. He's just not been doing it well.
I also think that he's kind of punishing Eloise the most out of the family because Eloise is the letter writer of the family and he received nothing. Yeah. But Eloise is the first one that dropped him the first time he left too. She's like, I just quit reading him. Like, he just drones on and on, but if she thinks
he drones on and on, you wait till you meet Sir Philip. Lady.
And what would you rather hear about?
Colin has been
the ocean, ships. Like, at least Colin's talking about various things.
I picked a plant for you.
Talking about flowers.
All right. Let's move on to our other flower of the season, Francesca, as she heads outside for a moment of peace. Do you catch that she's actually stimming with her hands as she walks out? She then takes like a big breath and exhale. She's clearly very overwhelmed, and you can tell that she's very much masking like the persona that she's putting on of this perfect debutante in front of Lord Samadani, in front of the Queen, in front of her mum. Lady Danbury, she is
It's work.
exhausted by it. And she walks out there and she's like, I just need a moment just to take the mask off, to breathe, to just be because I'm exhausted.
She's grounding herself too,
She
right
is.
there.
And you can
She
see her
plants her
hands.
feet
She's like she's definitely stimming with her hands. And you can tell that she's having a moment of realization that she can't just go along with whoever the Queen has picked for her, because what she thought was going to be an easy choice, yep, I just have to choose whoever the Queen picks for me, means picking a life with 8 children. And noise and chatter and a sociable husband who will want to attend events and charm people, and he'll want to talk to and greet people. She can see the life that is heading her way of an outgoing husband.
And she kind of reminds me, like, she's the opposite of Colin. Like, Colin makes plans and he, executes stuff, and he actually makes it more difficult than it needs to be, and that's typical of an ADHD person. I'm just saying, like, shout out to I'm pretty sure I'm self-diagnosed ADHD. I'm trying to get evaluated, but I'm diagnosed ADHD, and ADHD people know how to make a 3-step process a 15-step process. We're that good. So you see it with Colin all the time, how something should be, I'm going to do this, going to say this, she's going to do this, this is the outcome. And it becomes the dude with the Post-its, I'm saying. But Francesca wants things to be easy. She doesn't want the work.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to look into herself. She doesn't want to actually evaluate what she wants.
Yeah.
She thinks she can she's gone along with the family for so long. She's just gone along with whatever was going on to keep the peace, because she needs peace, that she thinks she can continue that in her life. And she's learning here, if I keep giving other people the responsibility of my choices, if I keep giving other people the ability to tell me what I want, I'm going to end up with something I don't want.
Yeah. Well, and I love this moment because Sir John enters that side himself, because he is also in search of peace, but he immediately approaches almost like he was searching for her in a way, because he walks straight up to her. It's not like, I've walked outside, I found my peace. Oh, there's a beautiful lady over there. Let me go talk to her.
No.
He approaches straight to her and stand side by side, but at a very respectable, safe space that she's not going to feel encroached upon. And he says, like, he's silent for a moment, and then he turns and very gently says, "Good evening." She takes a big breath and then returns the sentiment, but it's like she needed a moment to put her mask back on, thinking, okay, here goes another one.
I'm gonna have to mask. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to put on a show. I'm gonna have to be. I'm gonna have to have special interests. I'm gonna have passions and desires, and what makes you tick. And I'm gonna have to answer this, this onslaught of questions.
He's gonna have a million questions. Yeah. Let me get ready for my interview.
Yeah, and then he explains to her that he came outside for a moment of peace, that he does not like to frequent these kinds of things, that he finds them quite overwhelming. This isn't word for word. This is just the sentiment of what he kind of shares. And Francesca almost looks sadly relieved. And I don't know how to word that any differently other than she's sad that she's had to live in a world where that's not the norm, like where she feels so differently for it, but she's relieved because she finally realizes that she's not the only one, and that there's someone else out there who she can share that quiet contentment with.
Okay. And I agree. And I'm going to add on my own perspective, because as soon as she walks outside, he's coming up behind her. I kind of feel like, and his story about the boots, he saw Francesca straight away.
Yes.
I think that he picked her out of a crowd. I think he noticed her right away. He saw her. He saw a kindred spirit.
I think he was unwilling to approach her inside.
I think he was calling her. He was doing the calling and just clocking her everywhere she was, and saw his opportunity. He did not complicate things. You could learn a thing or two from him, Colin. And he just walks up to her and he wants her to know that he sees her and he wants her, like, he's giving her peace. She already is his peace because he says, I came out, for a moment of peace too. Like, he already felt that, was feeling that about her. He just knew he just knew. And she realized it in that moment, like, yes, we're similar, we're the same. But I think also her sad relief is when she looks at him, she's relieved that he's not like everybody else and that he's not making demands of her, because everybody's been making demands of her. But in the same moment, as she feels that connection, she's disappointed because she's not going to get to know him. She can't talk to him and she wants to. She's finally found somebody that she wants to connect with, but she can't because they're not introduced. And he asks, like, let's enjoy the silence together. So there's this little bit of disappointment. Like, finally, I find someone I want to talk to, and he wants to just be quiet.
And she is a rule follower. Like, even when the queen comes in and she's caught out playing the piano, she's like mortified, like, oh no, I've been caught out. I'm playing the piano when I'm supposed to be doing this. She's a rule
high
follower.
masking people are very rule followy. They are very good kids. And two, he is high enough rank. She doesn't know it, but he's a high enough rank that he could actually conduct the introduction if he so chose. He could introduce himself because he's an earl. Just like Debling could introduce himself to Colin. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
Because he does not, he wants to keep Colin at a disadvantage.
He was playing a game with Colin 100%. I was watching that whole, like, he's like, looks at Colin like, what are you going to do about it, punk? But we're talking about. And then, so as they enjoy the kind of piece together, Francesca gives John like this shy, like she's like kind of giving him the like a sideways look and kind of almost this like cheeky, shy, excited, like glance smile before excusing herself. As you said, not offline, out of the recording before, because I put in slightly unsure why you filled in this part for me. Take it away. Why she excused herself.
What did I say?
Because she wanted to continue the conversation, but they hadn't been formally introduced, and she's a rule follower.
We kind of already just said that, so I felt like it was done. But yeah, she realizes, she keeps looking at him again, like this is finally somebody she could connect with, only she realizes she can't. They have not been formally introduced, and she realizes that when she wants to talk to him, it's different when they're two people staring out into the unknown and they're not engaging with each other. But the minute she wants to engage with him, she's also thinking of, we could be caught. There's so much going on in that interaction, etiquette wise, that all she can do is excuse herself. Like, I don't necessarily think she was super stoked to go back into the party at all, but she had to escape, because being the introvert that she is and being,
being back autistic, around people,
I believe,
also gives her the opportunity to be formally introduced to him by someone. If she finds her mum and is like, oh, I found someone that I might be interested in, do you think that you could organize an introduction? If she's inside, then she could. Not that I think that she's forward enough to ever do that.
I think she was testing the waters, because he did show up so quickly as she walked outside, that her going back in, she was testing the waters of, is he going to pursue me?
Playing the debutante game.
I mean, it's Francesca. Francesca and Daphne are very,
they're more alike than people think.
Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca are stair steps. They're very close in age. And she would have gone through a lot of the training at the same time as Daphne. She would have learned from Daphne, much like we see some of the things that Penelope does. I really believe, as a frequent visitor to the home, and as someone that, Anthony could duel for her. Like, she is, not that he would duel his own brother, but if that was Debling sitting there saying that he compromised Penelope.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. So I think that as often as she was at their house and we see her pull a trick or two out of the Daphne bag, I think Francesca knows what she's doing. And she manages Violet. She's the manager of people. And she has to be, like, to feel safe. She manages others. So I think she kind of stepped away, because she's like, I want to see if he pursues me, because he doesn't come back up to her at the ball. But the look on her face when he shows up in the drawing room, she lights up like a Christmas tree. She's like, okay, he didn't seek me back out at the ball.
She's not very perceptive. Even in the book, you look at the way that like Michael was very explicitly in love with her, and if she even took 2 seconds to introvertly look at that before or after John died, she would have realized it. And he does every sort of thing that would alert her to that fact, and she's still blind to it.
John didn't realize it either.
No, but John is also autistic coded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I think that's a lot of it. I think she is playing a little bit of a game because she's finally connecting with a man that is almost a relief to her. Like she's not found a man she's felt any sort of crush or connection or whatever.
Inklings of romance.
And now she's feeling something. What could it be? And she's relieved because she did think she was an odd duck. And she thought she was weird, you know? I mean, I can just imagine what she's thinking. All of her other, like every one of her siblings, if you think about it, and we don't have her backstory, we're not going to have it till it's her season, but I almost wonder if there is a flashback of a broken heart because, and that explains why she's so withdrawn with her family, because every other Bridgerton person had that, you know, rough draft relationship that they got a little hurt from, and it might not be
they are making
necessarily
John
a broken.
They are making John the rough draft.
He is not a rough draft.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but he's not a rough draft.
He's 100% not, but it is what they are doing. You know, there are still, like, I've actually seen a few of these.
She didn't write a rough draft and then present her essay. If John's the rough draft, that's more like choosing a subject to write your paper on and then going to the teacher a week before the paper's due and saying, I want to change up everything entirely. I want to scrap this first one altogether. Like, that's not a rough draft. And I'm not saying she needs to scrap John or anything. I mean, the books and everything, he passes away, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be something in her past. We don't see a lot of her past because she's always in Bath. Or at Aunt Winnie's, which I'm pretty sure is Bath. So there's got to be something there that makes her think this is just not, I think, in season
2 they say that Francesca's been in Bath forever or something like that.
Yeah, but there's got to be something in her past to make her think that feelings for her are just not possible. Like, I almost feel like she doesn't feel like she's ever going to love like her siblings do. She doesn't feel as unhinged. She doesn't feel as feral. She doesn't feel as, she doesn't have big feelings like Colin. You know what I mean? Like, I think she believes she doesn't have feelings like that in a way.
We see them come out occasionally, but we'll talk about them as we get further in, because we do see the tendrils of, like, she has little hissy fits at John and her mother. No, I'm not interested in her mother. So let's move on to our favorite flamboyant character, Benedict. So actually, one of our lovely fans from our Facebook group, Claire, has recently been going on basically a Bridgerton tour, and she recently went and got
self-guided. She did it all on her own.
She did, and I love.
She's girlfriend. Props.
She's been to. She went to Bridgerton House. She went to Lady Tilley's house. She went to Featherington House. She's done like a high tea, Bridgerton high teas. We love it all. If anyone else of our listeners are doing these experiences, if they're going to the Bridgerton candlelight concerts or the vitamin string quartets or visiting the scenes
Bridgerton balls.
Bridgerton balls, Bath, please post it to our Facebook.
Share.
We love it all, honestly. We love getting to go along for the ride with people who are like-minded. So specifically, Claire has visited this scene exactly. The scene of Benedict and Lady Tilley it's not a hallway. I don't know what you'd call that little space, but it's basically like a corridor-ish, but it's basically just highlight one bust of Aphrodite.
Well, it's the staircase. It's a staircase going from one level to another. And because there's so much space on the landing, because it's a staircase that goes up, there's a landing, and then it goes up the opposite way, that they chose to put this piece of art there. It showcases this sculpture.
This is called the bust. So this is not the bust of Aphrodite. It is a bust of Aphrodite though. So it's not it's a statuette of Aphrodite of Gnidos, which previously to this, but statuettes had almost exclusively been made of men and gods, not of women. And this is one of the first statuettes of a woman or a goddess done. And the reason that I found that interesting for them to have that, so it's not the original, because not that they have an original anyway, but the original was broken. And so this is a Italian version of it, because the original has her hand, I think, over her crutch, whereas in this one, I believe her hand is up over covering her breast, as we talk about, is most common with Aphrodite's statues and painting.
She's holding something. I think the one hand is down covering.
She's got a blanket kind of a thing that drapes over like a vase, and with one hand, and then the other hand is up, like kind of covering one of her breasts, as is most common for Aphrodite, which is how I realized that it was Aphrodite. But yeah, apparently this is
Aphrodite sculptures, one of her breasts are exposed.
Yes, yeah. So so in the Greek ones, the Greek original, it was covering her vajayjay, and then in the Italian version of Venus, it covers her breast. But yeah, the reason I found it interesting was because this is the first time where a lady is taking the lead, and she is having her own statuette made, which is sort of the power role that Lady Tilley is playing within the relationship of Benedict and Lady Tilley. So Benedict approaches Lady.
I think that sculpture that's in the garden that I was trying to find that I couldn't, and I believe it's an amalgamation of a couple of sculptures possibly. That one, like you talking about this being Aphrodite being like one of the first sculptures did of women, and most sculptures have been of men and things before that. I think that the art that is displayed in this season is very women empowerment coded, because if you think about that sculpture, the lady on the horse, and it's indicative of the gentle lady on a white horse or whatever that sculpture is, because of the way her hand is up, but she's very large. But if you look right in front as it comes up over, there is a man there, but he's small. He's like a lawn jockey. The way he looks, he's just holding a hat instead of the lantern thing. But he's very small. And I think that is, with this sculpture, she's admiring this sculpture of Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is, a very powerful goddess. She is orchestrating the whole Eros and Psyche separation from the myth, that this is their way of saying, hey, this season is really about women coming into their power. And unfortunately, I think that to do that, they make the men smaller. And I think that sculpture illustrates that.
Yeah.
But these two men, we see how Benedict and Colin are similar with their view of women, because even though Benedict is the town bicycle, he's still very
respectful
of women, and he views them as equal. He's never been like the way Antony was with Sienna. Never been a Benedict thing.
It is not your place to understand. You would never get those words out of Benedict's mouth. Like when Antony said it's not your place to understand, I was like, excuse me, sir.
Or like when he talked to Sienna and he's like, well, they're ladies.
Yes.
She's like, well, sorry.
I can't see you anymore. Why not? It's not your place to understand. Are you kidding me? I would have slapped him silly. So Benedict approaches Lady Tilley in this hallway, whatever we want to call it. And he's basically saying, I came here to find you, and braved the vicious mamas specifically to find you. And she explains
he calls them vipers,
vicious vipers. And and Tilly basically explains at this point that she is a widow and that she's had plenty of seasons to mourn, but she is not in search of a husband, and so he need not fear her. And he says, "Oh, I was never afraid," and she's like, "That is a mistake." And I love that it goes from that and it cuts directly to them beginning a dance together. Now, the music that they have playing whilst Lady Tilley and Benedict are dancing is very interesting, because it's that very quintessential Bridgerton, kind of hyped up exciting, loving, not romantic loving, but like the stirrings of a new love, kind of the music that they kind of play in those kinds of scenes. And what is most interesting about this dance scene is something that I think Patty, you first noticed this back way, way, way when we first started talking, is the fact that Lady Tilley is taking the male lead in this dance and she is dancing. If you have a look at when it goes into the aerial view of all the dancers, she is standing in the male's position and she is leading Benedict, just like she is going to lead him down the path of debauchery.
There is a pause. Well, and there's a lot of great imagery in the scene, in the stairway, the landing into this scene, because remember at the balloon thing, she put him in his place.
Yes.
Like
but he's impressed by it. He's not like, yes, that's not your place. He's like, well,
I mean, technically, like if you look at the imagery, she's standing by Aphrodite and she descends. She comes down to his level. He doesn't come up to her.
No.
She descends down to his level, almost like how the gods in Greek mythology, they always come down and they humans sleep with mortals.
Well, I mean, they have mortals cannot enter into
the heaven realm, like they come down.
Mount Olympus.
Mount Olympus.
My brain was like,
right.
Are you turned on?
Yeah, and it's important we know that because Zeus, aka the queen, has to elevate
the queen?
Psyche.
King.
Yeah, no, Zeus is the queen in this at the end.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. My brain went braining.
When she accepts Whistledown and she gives her seal of approval, she's basically saying Penelope is boss babe immortal. But so Tilley in this moment, she descends to him. So she's like, and the stairs are like Mount Olympus. She is coming down from Mount Olympus to stand among the mortals. And Benedict almost kind of treats her like that. Like he treats her with the reverence befitting of a woman that put him in his place.
I nearly questioned whether Sophie was even going to be a thing with the way that he was just enamored with this lady. And I do think that if she hadn't had involved Paul, I do think that they would have imploded eventually. But I do actually think that they would have, like, he would have been with her for a lot longer, and especially for the fact that he had gone to the point of introducing her to his family, to bringing her to family events. Like, that was surpassing courting rules. That was like engagement level commitment right there.
Well, and Benedict, I mean, he acts like he knows the rules, but he screws them up himself all the time, right? Yeah. Like him explaining to Will that
he knows the rules,
you can do whatever you want,
but his heart doesn't want to follow them.
And then he almost outs Lady Tilley by saying that they have already met when they haven't been introduced, and she has to correct him.
Well,
but so she comes down, and then when they show the dance, there's this pause, and she looks him in the eye, and then she turns them. And for a brief moment, he's surprised, but then he's like, I had to be the lady when Antony learned to dance. Like, I just felt like he's done this before and he knew both sides of the dance. Like it did not screw him up.
No.
He instantly caught it. And I mean, this is the symbolism.
Do you think him and Colin take turns and who's going to be the girl when they're like doing the dance lessons at school, or like the home school?
Well, no, because remember, he and Antony he's 5 years older than Colin. And then Daphne is a year to a year and a half younger than Colin. So by the time she would have had to dance and there was actually a female able to dance, they would have been, you know what I mean? So I think that when Antony and Benedict are going through that, I think that Antony would have never, ever been the lady. And Benedict probably always had to.
I can see that. Okay, let's talk about, seeing as you mentioned Will and his rules. So the scene cuts over to Will at his bar because obviously he does not attend the Innovations ball. He decides to stay at his bar that evening, and that is a fatal mistake in the eyes of respect from the Tom. Lord Garrett approaches Will and basically tells him that he has to choose between running his bar, staying at a servant's level, or being part of the ton. You cannot be part of the gentry and be a working class person.
Right. And I find it interesting that it's Garrett who is more of an equal, because remember, the two people that invited him on that hunt was Fife and Garrett.
Yeah.
And now Fife is not present in the bar. Garrett is the one having this conversation. Like Five sent him like, he'll, if I say it, it's this, but if you say it kind of thing, like you're the better person for this. And then later, we know Fife is like, we're going to go to White's. Funny that the other club is called White's and has been around since the dawn of time. We're going to go to White's, not that dreadful Mondrick bar. Why is it dreadful? Why is it dreadful, dude? What did he ever do to you? Nothing. Fife says dreadful.
Because Fife is an absolute snob.
He's a huge snob.
Wait, was it Fife or was it Wilding?
No, Fife said dreadful Mondrick bar. We're going to go to White's, not that dreadful Mondrick bar. And I think it's because Fife is legit like the last vestiges of,
For some reason, I didn't even
child of the
Fife was involved much this season.
He's not. He's on the fringes. He's there. I think he orchestrates a lot and he sends minions to do stuff. But I think he's one of the last vestiges of old racist, they're not one of us England. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's very elitist.
He's very elitist. And I think that, Stanton is part of the group. Like originally it's Cho in season 2, and then it's Stanton because Cho's off actually trying to find a wife. But I think he's got his token friend so that he can claim he's not racist. So, but he just comes off to me like he's very elitist. And I mean, Mondrick didn't do anything to him.
Man of questionable morals. Okay, let's talk about, because it's edging very close to 4 a.m. for you. Eloise is very excited to finally see that Cressida is unoccupied, unbeknownst to her, the fact that Cressida is unoccupied, not by her own means. And upon kind of approaching Cressida, I've been waiting for you to be unoccupied all evening. She's kind of almost pained to see that Cressida is looking over at Lord Debling, choosing Penelope, and that she can see that Cressida is hurt. But Eloise almost looks pained in that moment as well. And I think it's very much because she doesn't know how to feel when Penelope is getting what she wants, but at the cost of what Cressida wants. But I also wondered whether it's partly like, why am I the only one who's not fawning after men? Or, it's that, again, that feeling of
I think that Eloise so far has been able to be friends with Penelope because Penelope gives. Penelope's the giver. Eloise doesn't know how. She doesn't know how to be empathetic.
Yeah. She tries.
And she sucks at it. Like
you wouldn't
sounds like German literature.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do
wouldn't suit a diet of vegetables.
And truthfully, I took that as a dig on Penelope. Like, let Penelope have them. She could stand to eat a vegetable or two. Like, that girl only eats Cheetos in her bedroom.
Is why she's wearing the gloves all the time to hide the Cheeto dust.
Yeah, to hide the Cheeto dust.
Eloise, I think, is very, like, this is a moment where she is very blind to the struggle of others and very much blind to the struggles of other debutantes. Either choose to be married or forced to be married. Many parents will not allow their lineage to go unhonored, in the way that Violet is just sort of allowing Violet's desire to see her daughter married off is not at all the selfish, I want her out of the house, I don't want her to be my responsibility anymore, it's embarrassing for me as a mother to have a daughter unmarried, it looks badly upon me. It is none of that. It is purely 100%, I want my daughter to live a rich and fulfilling life, and to me that involves finding your other half, your person, and feeling complete in that.
Well, and I think that of all of the Bridgerton children, Eloise is the one who has not truly acknowledged or understood their privilege.
Yes.
And she is just blind to it. She lives in practically the direct middle. So she's been protected by her brothers. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to be perfect because Daphne's there to do that for her. Yeah. And, she doesn't have to, she has plenty of people. If I have an opinion on something and you don't agree with me, I got, 6 other siblings. I'll find someone. Oh, and my best friend across the street, she'll agree with anything I say because she loves being loved by somebody. And so it's literally like she hasn't had to do any work yet to have a real friendship. Penelope did all the work. Penelope came over to her house. She wanted to escape her own. Penelope, thank God, had a love of reading, and that's what they have bonded over, reading.
I don't think
They didn't
Penelope
talk about boys.
I don't think she
They
ever
didn't
felt
talk about deep
comfortable.
thought.
I don't think that Penelope ever felt comfortable in opposing Eloise either. You see that when
Mm-mm.
she finally snaps in season one, when, she's got the whole Marina situation going on and Eloise is completely unaware of her feelings for Colin, that I think even in that moment, she's like, how can you not see that I love him? How can you not see that this is hurting me? I'm your best friend. How do you not see that? And I think it's one of those
Mm-hmm.
moments where she's finally realizing that Eloise isn't as invested in her as a friend in the way that friends notice things about each other, even things that have gone unsaid. And
Yes.
and I think
And I think that Pretty Bridgerton line, that Pretty Bridgerton
yeah,
dig, is very much a jealousy for her friend
yeah,
being pretty, because Colin doesn't act like a Pretty Bridgerton.
no.
Benedict does not act like a Pretty Bridgerton.
Well,
Anthony, but I mean, he doesn't walk around going,
Ben, well, Anthony knows his privilege. He knows he is privileged.
he knows it and he acknowledges it and he uses it.
Yes.
Eloise tries to, like, she doesn't
Eloise reaps
understand
the
she's privileged at
Eloise reaps
all.
the benefit of it, but doesn't acknowledge that it is a benefit.
Right. She turns her nose down at everybody that is in the ton, that and like even with Theo, like she goes too far there because she doesn't understand her privilege. She
Hmm.
doesn't understand that footman is endangering his job, his life, his
His
livelihood
livelihood, yeah, which
to
in
to
turn
do for
endangers his
her.
family.
And she thinks it's worth just getting her pin money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she just has no clue. And she's had to be called out by Penelope a couple of times, but Penelope always ends up giving in because Eloise is her only friend,
Yeah.
and her only link to Colin.
I hope
Uh
with Michaela seeming like a woman who speaks her mind and speaks it freely, I hope that she
mhm.
forms a friendship with Eloise and kind of gives her, because I think Michaela is going to be very much someone who's not interested in well, she's not interested in chasing a husband because yeah, the wrong bits. But
And I
so
think that's probably going to be her catalyst. Not so much that Theo was a catalyst, but she's going to befriend Michaela because she thinks Michaela's like her and wants to be a spinster, and
yeah,
she speaks her mind and
yeah,
everything. But I think she's going to find out the secret. Her perspective's going to
yes.
be, her eyes are going to be open. She's going to kind of wig and then she's going to go, that's not me.
Well, I think that Michaela is going to say, you choose not to love you, but I cannot for my own
Mm-hmm.
safety. I think that's going to be the conversation. I think that Michaela is going to be a really, really good catalyst for
She
Eloise
is
to
going to start
realize her
seeking
privilege.
something because, well, and she doesn't want to be that elderly person that people wonder about her or talk about her in that way. She didn't like being talked about in Whistledown, right?
Yeah.
So she's not going to want to hear those kind of whispers and think people think that of her. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think that's going to be her catalyst. Like if I'm this outspoken woman, nobody's going to be listening to me because they believe women should have these privileges. They're going to think I'm this.
Hmm.
And I think that's her catalyst to really start,
I think
looking towards
Michaela's
Philip or whatever. And
I
I
think
think
Mick
that's what the swing conversation is going to end up being
yeah. I
between
think
her and Benedict.
I think that Michaela is not just in her realizing about other people's sexual orientation kind of way, but I think that Michaela is going to open her eyes and say, you're a fool, you're young, you take for granted the family that you have, you take for granted the life that you have, you take for granted the privilege you have. And I think that she's just going to say it pretty straight because she seems like that kind of person. And if they keep some of the personality traits of John from the book, John was a pretty sharp shooter. He was never rude. He was very charismatic, but he also was very honest and very real. And so I hope
Very
that they
direct.
keep, yeah, very direct. And I hope that they keep that, which it seems to be. Like the second that we met Michaela, she's straight into it. She is exhibiting very masculine confidence that we don't
Yeah.
really see in many women. Lady Tilley, we
Well,
see it in.
I mean, if you think about it, Eloise is about to have her season of extreme growth before her
Hmm.
season. This is going to be her growing pain season because she's going into a situation where there is a lifestyle she's never even considered. that
Mm-hmm.
she's going to be introduced to
Mm-hmm.
potentially. She is also, if they keep some of the infertility story for
Yeah.
Francesca, she is going to be there when Francesca experiences a
Miscarriages.
miscarriage.
Yeah.
So here she's been afraid of getting pregnant for the fear of dying all this time. And
Yeah.
now she sees that she could get pregnant, start loving this child that's
Mm-hmm.
growing within her, and then lose it. And she watches Francesca's grief and her sorrow and John, and like she's not a very empathetic person, and she is being thrust into a situation. Well,
Yeah.
she put herself there, so not really thrust, but
Yeah.
she wanted this adventure and she's about to get it.
Well, and speaking of pregnancies, that leads me into the last point of our evening slash your very early morning or mid morning at this point. Is
This whole week I've been going to bed between, like, I go to bed early, but then I only sleep for like an hour, hour and a half, and
yeah.
then I'm up for like 3 hours or 4 hours. I'm not even due to go
Well,
back to bed
look,
until like an hour from now.
I took your nap time away. Your your epilogue to your sleep.
I'd be scrolling right now if we were not.
So the Featheringtons, it cuts to the Featheringtons for the final scene, and they are watching. And when I say Featheringtons, I also include Denki Finchie in that list.
Yeah, because they're Featherington bros.
Yeah,
These women are so fierce and these women are so masculine themselves, and
the
they
men
got
would
with
take the
effeminate
last
men.
name.
Yeah, the men would take their last name
Yeah.
for sure. And that's like this whole season is gender swap, not just Michael Michaela, but the whole dance thing with Benedict and Tilly. She's very much in her masculine. The Featherington sisters, all three of them, and the mother are very masculine, and two of them ended up with very effeminate men in their own way. And Colin is the feminine when you think about it, just because of how in touch he is with his emotions
Well,
and
you
stuff
know what
like
the
that.
funny thing is Finchie actually reminds me of Stephen a little bit,
Yeah, I love
especially the
Finch.
hay fever. Oh, my little sensitive
Well, that's
sausage.
a nervous sneeze. It's a
Yeah,
nervous sneeze.
it's hay fever. And he also likes himself a cheese. He's lactose
Me too. Do
intolerant,
you know how
severely
upset I
lactose
got, like,
intolerant, but
when we were gonna pod before? It was right after I got off of work, and I was like, I'm hungry, I don't have time to really make anything. And I had got summer sausage, and I thought I had still got the cheese, but I had removed the cheese from the cart on my Instacart.
oh no.
So I get in there and I'm like, well, I can't have the summer sausage because I really wanted, so I'll just wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, darn it.
So back to cheese. The cheese of our lives is Denki being completely unaware. So they are all watching Penelope and Dabbling dance for the first time. And Philippa says, I feel sick. And then Prudence is like, yeah, I also feel sick. Like as if like watching her sister find happiness makes them feel sick. And then Philippa goes, no, really, I feel sick, and then runs off to go vomit. This is when Portia's like, I thought you guys stopped taking the potion, and Prudence completely
like,
unaware.
We did. With
Like,
her little
what's your
hand
problem?
backward on her hip and everything. Like, she just looks so bored. Like, oh, why am I here?
She 100% is like the absolute reincarnation of the evil stepsister from Cinderella. The facial features, the gestures, to everything. But anyway, and Portia like very much realizes at this moment that Philippa is pregnant, and she basically spells it out, but you are not allowed to say the word pregnant back then.
They do.
You were with child, you were affected, you were there were a whole range of
you were about to enter your confinement.
You were in the quickening age, like stage. There were all these very vague terminology for the different phases of your pregnancy, but you were not allowed to use the words I am pregnant, she is pregnant, they are pregnant. You cannot use the word pregnant. It's like using the C word in today's language. Like, you don't do it. It's an untalked about thing. By saying someone is pregnant, you were actively acknowledging that they have been porked.
Yeah. Sex was so taboo, you couldn't even discuss the outcome.
I can hear my son talking in his sleep in the other room. And I know it's in his sleep because it's like, there's a bit like, but you can actually get him to respond to you. Like, he'd be like, no, mummy, not that one. And I'll be like, okay, darling, which one? That one, please. That one. He's so cute. Oh,
Well, he looks just like little Lukey Newt.
he does actually. Yeah. Patty was showing me a photo of baby Lukey Newts the other day, and I was like, yeah, actually, they could definitely pass as siblings, and it's not anything to do with my genetics because I've got the dark hair, the tan, the olive skin, and my son got none of that. He is a fair
No.
skin baby, fair-haired, very delicate features, my little man.
Yeah, but I mean, Luke grew up and had dark hairs.
Yeah, I have hope.
Maybe. Yeah, there's hope.
I have hope that the Greek genes are going to be dominant after all. They just took a while. They took a while to conquer. Bloody England. They take over everything. I think that the top dogs, the Greeks, the Spartans, we are small in number, but we are mighty. All right. For today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode where we will finally be beginning episode 4 and all that it entails. Gallop.
Got some work to do.
Oh, we got some running. We got some shaking. We got some fingers.
I
If
gotta
you have
get
anything
my face up to my TV.
for the fingers or for the reading?
For the reading. I'm still trying to get these stinking journals. He was writing like so super close and
yeah, scribble.
Like these are not the episode 2 journals, not at all.
They are like they are
they're true ADHD.
They are
you
true
start
chaos
out super
Colin,
nice,
deep in his feels.
You start out super nice handwriting, and then as your brain just starts moving faster than your hand could ever move, you give up good handwriting.
Well, I mean, in some of those first voice notes that I sent to you when we started voice noting about the pod, I'm pretty sure that you thought that my volume was on double speed, even when it wasn't, because like many other Greek women out there, I have an ability to talk at a rate that is just unheard of. And for me, Americans speak at a much slower pace, and so I do slow my pace down to match yours sometimes. But I put your voice notes always on double speed because it's the only way that it makes sense in my brain.
I listen at 1.5. I think that's a neurospicy thing. But I've always been a fast talker. Mm-hmm. Just my most recent experience when you really have to be careful with your words for your safety, you start slowing down. Yeah. Like when I was the other day when I was like super upset about stuff and I listened back to my voice note, I was like, I had to put myself on 2 times speed. I was like, just get it out, girlfriend. Like, what is your problem? I'm talking to you. I could totally stream of consciousness and I could get it out. But I was still like in that moment, I was still being so careful with my words. Yeah. That it's like,
you know what? I think the faster I talk, the safer space you are as well, because if I'm not having to monitor what I'm saying, I just speak at an unhinged level. But when I'm having to like really think it through and monitor and edit as I go, that is where I'm definitely talking slower. Okay, we need to head ourselves off to bed. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you are enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening.
Yep. And thank you for sticking around for the musings of 2 Mad.
Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi.
And Lady Patty.